What's up, outliers? Erik here from Outlier Trading, and it is time to talk about some options. We're going to run through 5 options trading tips, and through this, I actually want to integrate some of the really cool tools available at Barchart to help you piece together better, more informed positions. So we're going to walk through all of that. But before we get into the details, you know how this goes. We got to start with a disclaimer, everybody's favorite, because I am not a part of Barchart. They are just my friends. I enjoy making content with them for you. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a dude from the internet. So with that aside, let's get straight in. So the very first one is something that is really obvious once you think about it. But for those that don't consider it, it doesn't really mean much. So fit the structure to the profit mechanism. What does that mean? Well, let's look at an example. This tends to help. Let's say that we have these 2 charts, and I know, take a minute, soak in the artwork that are these squiggly lines drawn by my own hand. Nonetheless, hopefully you could tell that those are squiggly lines. So I want to really draw your eye to the profit mechanism that we're looking to capture in both of these prospective stocks. Notice the way that this one moves as compared to the way that this one moves. The way that we might want to trade, the expectation of what we think might happen in the future is different. So what does that look like? Say in this example, before this part of the graph happens, you have a breakout style strategy where you look for things that are consolidating, and then when it breaks up above, you try to trade that surge in price direction. Typically looks something like this. Well, that profit mechanism is going to have some very specific traits. It's going to have really high volume, slightly higher aggressive moves in shorter time frames, things like that. Whereas something like drift takes a slightly different shape. Notice how it's just is kind of lumbering forward and up. It doesn't have quite the same parabolic movement that you see here, but it runs up over time. So what does this mean? What does fitting the structure to the profit mechanism mean? Well, it means that the options you choose to trade something like this are probably different than what you might choose to trade something like this. Perfect example. If we think about a short put versus a long call, let's take a look at the risk profile for these. So also hand drawn by myself. I want you to take a look at the difference between these two. You can see that the short put will have a capped profit potential here, and it'll have undefined risk potential down to 0. And then a long call will have unlimited upside potential and a defined downside. Now, what's the trade-off between these? There's a lot of differences. A lot of it comes down to probabilities and things like that. Short put, for example, you don't really need a big move in your favor in order to make the maximum amount of money. That's one of the benefits of them typically. So which one of these would you rather use for this kind of profit mechanism, a breakout? If we're trading something that might have a really big move, would we want to cap our profit potential even though we get a bigger win zone? Maybe, maybe not. But the point is, it should be a consideration. A lot of times traders will default and they'll say, oh, I sell options, or oh, I buy options. And in my humble opinion, that's a mistake. It should be custom fit to the individual circumstance that you're looking for, and always taken in the context of what's in the portfolio, what makes sense from a broader perspective. But we shouldn't just default. We should take a look at our toolkit, figure out what tool fits the job the right way compared to just grabbing the hammer for everything. As they say, if you always use a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, you might get the price direction correct with your short put if that's what you use, but you might notice you're like, man, when I'm wrong, I'm losing a bunch of money and I could be making so much more if I was using something else. So it's a consideration. You always have to figure out, obviously, what fits your scenario the best. But the Cliff Notes version for number 1 is don't default to something. Be ready to try different things and use what seems to fit the best. The next one, using the Greeks to build your trade. This is one of the really neat things about a lot of different options trading platforms, Barchart included, and they literally will provide to you different level Greeks for each expiration cycle. You can use it for larger groups of strikes and things like that. The main thing is each one of these gives you pieces of information that you can feed into how you want to build your trade. I view the Greeks as kind of like the instrument cluster to a car. I like cars, I like driving. And the instrument cluster to a car gives you a lot of information. It tells you if your coolant is running too hot, meaning your car is about to overheat. If you start to notice that your oil pressure is dropping, that means that you have a problem somewhere and you need to address it. It's kind of the same thing with the Greeks. Say, for example, going back to that original scenario we were looking at, where we have something that we expect a really big parabolic up move. You can use delta, the number of options that you could technically buy, along with their gamma, to pick a structure, maybe something like we would refer to as building units. That's actually when we buy a lot of pretty far out of the money options, but you can get a lot of them because they're cheap. And then if you get a big move in your favor, then you can compound pretty quickly. What's the drawback to that? Well, if we take a look at theta, we'll notice that those options tend to decay really fast. And another tool we're going to look at later, they're also typically pretty expensive on a relative basis. So that means we have to be discerning. And that's why number one is so important. Because if you track the performance of your strategies and you realize that you have a strategy that has a decent hit rate for these big kind of moves, then you can use the Greeks to build a trade that will maximize your profit potential. So the way to think about the Greeks is that they provide no inherent edge in and of themselves. Sometimes people are like, learn the Greeks, you're going to make money. And it's not like that at all. They just give you information about how your options trades are going to behave as other conditions are locked in isolation, which is important to note that last part because markets move. So what that means is as delta starts moving, gamma is going to move, theta is going to move a little bit, vega is going to move. There's going to be different changes as markets move around, but you should absolutely always take a peek at the Greeks when you're building a trade. They're really, really informative. Next, define profit and loss targets and a management plan before entry. It's the simplest thing. Going back to that breakout style trade example that we're using so far. Let's say that you're watching it consolidate and then it starts to break out. Well, before we enter the trade, as we analyze where we think it's going to break out, we should also analyze where we define ourselves as wrong. So let's say, for example, instead of this going up like that, it instead pops up like this, and then it rolls back over. We're wrong. That's all there is to it. And you're going to be wrong a lot in trading. The sooner we can get over that, the better. And rather than allowing the disposition effect to take hold, where we allow losing trades to grow into bigger and bigger and bigger losing trades, makes it harder to overcome them, we say, if it comes back down to this point, I'm wrong. That's okay. I'm going to manage the loss at this point so that it's a much smaller loss so that I can get on more occurrences of this kind of trade and let the probabilities play out. This is one of the easiest things you could do to quite literally transform your trading overnight. It overcomes a lot of emotional factors that come in. When we start feeling a lot of hope, the disposition effect that I was just talking about, it cuts both ways because there's loss aversion where we don't want to realize losing trades because we don't like that sensation. And we like to cut winning trades too fast. Why? It's a great sensation. Who doesn't like to make money? Who doesn't like to be right? So in that scenario, rather than letting this move up all the way and slowly moving your stops up with it, if you don't have a plan, then it's like, oh, it broke out. I'm going to take profit here. Meanwhile, we missed out on the rest of this potential because we took profit way too fast. You can define all of this before you get in so that it's very, very simple and you just go along with the program. Super, super simple. Next one. Use options to inform your trades. This is a cool thing about options. They're highly levered products used by everybody, including institutions. They contain a lot of information that we can use to come up with some ideas on what might be going on in something. So say, for example, we can grab from Barchart something like this, the historical versus implied volatility plot for different timeframes. You can also do historical volatility for different timeframes. This is using a 30-day. You could do a 7-day. You can make it whatever you want. Now, the cool part about this is, let's say you're a volatility trader. We know that volatility clusters, and we know that if we're selling, let's say, vertical spreads, that doesn't matter quite as much in these kinds of trades. But if you're trading things like short straddles or short strangles, and you're delta hedging and trying to keep them flat to really, in terms of direction, to really isolate the effect of volatility, well, we can see that there are periods where historic volatility is below implied. Sometimes it inverts and sometimes it goes back. So say, for example, this long period in here, that's actually quite telling, where we see implied volatility running so much lower than historical volatility. That means the volatility that we're implying to occur is lower, meaning that those options aren't being priced heavy enough to compensate for the realized movements. So if I'm a volatility trader and I'm like, this might not look like a great spot to start selling straddles or strangles trying to capture volatility because it looks like it's inverted. Now, you could look at this across different time frames and things like that, make it personalized to you. But the point is, you should absolutely use this kind of tool. The other thing that this can do, apply to everybody, is if you see something with a really high implied volatility percentile, that means right now, relative to the stocks itself, it's very volatile. So that generally means we think something's going on. We might not know what it is, but we know something's there. So that can prompt us to look. Maybe earnings is coming up, something like that. Another really cool tool, expected moves. So let's go back to that breakout example that we used a bunch of times now. And we have our loss target, right? Because we said if it breaks out, it fails on the breakout, rolls back over, that's where we're going to get out easy. But you might be saying to yourself, well, what's my upside target? How do I know what makes sense for that? You could use something like this. You could look across different expirations and timeframes and say, what's the probability of this moving within a certain range? You can literally attach probabilities to each of your trades so that you're not going into it just hoping something happens, but you can literally say when you're entering the trade, this has a 16% probability of hitting this point by this time frame. That's very informative. Next up, max pain. Now, max pain is kind of quirky. There's a lot that goes into this. I don't want to spend a ton of time on it. People really can weight this, in my opinion, way too heavily for what it is, but it is informative. So max pain can help us understand where options might be drawn to come expiration, because from a market maker's perspective, they're incentivized to land around max pain, where the most amount of options expire worthless. So it's good to be aware of those things, but one quick note is max pain moves all the time. So sometimes people will say like, oh, it's, like a magnet for options. It can be, but it's also really important to note that it's not a static number. As options are traded, max pain is also going to move. So to a degree, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy coming into expiration. Open interest by strike can give you all sorts of details, like where's the liquidity? I can tell you right now, for the 3 DTE options, the liquidity is at the 240 on the put side. That is where all the OI is. I can tell you that the 250 is where all the liquidity is for the call side. That doesn't mean you can't put on trades in other spots, but that does mean that's where you're going to find liquidity. It can also tell you if you see really big extremes, maybe that are super far out of the money. That it doesn't necessarily mean it's going up, but that means something's going on. And that's the thing about options. A lot of times, it's not going to give you a direct answer, but it will give you something to take a look at. Next up, volatility skew. This is super useful because we can come up with an idea on where volatility might be mispriced for, again, those volatility traders. We can also take a look at the volatility smile or smirk or surface. This is kind of a combination thereof, to see, is there more volatility being priced in on the call side than the put side? So say, for example, something like Apple. Typically, we will see volatility higher on the put side as people are hedging downside moves. But if we see the call side exceed the put side, if you have the context for something like Apple, that's like, the upside's being priced a little heavy there. Why? Is there some sort of expectation? Is there a product release coming out that might mean that we think the stock might go up? The other thing you could do is use this to trade relative value volatility plays. What does that mean? Well, if I take a look at the calls here, I can see that these 220 and change calls are really expensive compared to the 220s. That could just be a liquidity function, but it could be that we can sell the 220 and change, whichever the strike is specifically, and we can buy the 220s and play the relative volatility curve between these. It's another way that you can use options. There's literally tons and tons of ways to use options. These are just a few. If you're interested, we could do another video on them. Last one, Goldilocks analysis. Don't do it. This simply means traders have a propensity to think through and think about the scenarios that they want to see happen. Oh, on that breakout, I have all these lines sketched out on where I think it's going to go to the upside, but I spend zero time thinking where it might go to the downside. Those kinds of things. You have to think through the life cycle of the trade, specifically the elements that you don't want to look at, because those are the ones that typically hurt. As always, if there's any questions, let us know in the comments. Also, share your favorite options trading tip so everybody else can learn. Be an outlier. I'll see y'all later.